Watchdogs Legion is the third installment in the Watchdogs franchise. It is one of my favorite game series from recent years, and I think Watchdogs games are innovative, fun, and unique games. Watchdogs Legion brings something new to the table, and also its selling point: play as any NPC you want, pick and recruit any character to your roster and enjoy the story however you want, experience different gameplay scenarios, and immerse yourself in this futuristic London. Now, there are many flaws with this system, mostly from a narrative standpoint. While innovative, it presents problems. My analysis was going to be divided into three parts: what's good, the story, and by consequence, how gameplay affects the story and hurts the narrative overall. But the arguments I was going to present as of why Watch Dogs Legion is flawed have already been said, and they can be summarized fairly easy in one paragraph. The problem with playing as everyone is that you also play as no one. The dialogue and narrative is written for any person in mind, meaning your character isn't special in any way unless you make it. In a way, you have to roleplay and fill in the gaps yourself. This has its consequences. Obviously, some voices and responses are dry, especially if you play for extended periods of time, and there's a lack of consequence when it comes to your actions. If you choose to partake in extreme violence, that means nothing. Once again, a returning narrative feature from Watch Dogs 2. Or if you take a non-lethal approach, no one really cares but you. But it's hard to put a lot of consequence without taking away the fun. A few games are not afraid to do this, but I understand why Watch Dogs doesn't. One thing Watch Dogs does extremely well is the gameplay. It is really fun, truly a satisfying experience even in the first installment, which I dislike. Legion has interesting new mechanics, not only the picking a character mechanic, but also how weapons and perks are tied to different individuals, world puzzles, different approaches, and even some room for role-playing, which I may add it enhances the experience, at least on a personal level. Each character also has attributes and minor defining traits, which can affect or help you depending on the situation. One thing I deeply enjoyed was Iron Man mode, which I picked from the start, and it has been an amazing experience, hard but rewarding. It has an impact. The possibility of a character dying if they take lethal damage is a great addition if you ask me, and you really have to think twice, make decisions, and have different characters for different scenarios. Most of my team is comprised of hackers and stealth agents with non-lethal and silent weaponry, but I do have a couple who have experience with combat and carry weapons with live rounds just in case. In my opinion, the way the game was intended to be played. Recruiting people is engaging, is fun, and assembling the perfect team for you is super entertaining. I've spent quite some time doing this. I also appreciate that Ubisoft isn't shy when it comes to trying new things, but also doesn't want to take away already existing mechanics that are characteristic of the franchise. The atmosphere and world is a mix of 1 and 2, just enough comedy and just enough serious stuff, and they did level up the serious stuff, I may add. I have found myself genuinely disturbed at a few moments in some of the side missions and locations. On some minor notes, the attention to detail in this game is remarkable. Melee has improved from previous installments. And one thing that it is extremely important and that makes games like Sunset Overdrive and Watch Dogs 2 and the new installments of Wolfenstein, the feel of the game. If a game feels good, you already have a good card on your deck. I like how they tackle topics like privacy. Legion does a good job when it comes to this. I've always said that Watch Dogs as a franchise has so much narrative potential since it covers relevant and important topics that affect and will affect our society in the future. I like that it is inclusive and it feels natural when it comes to some of the dialogue, although this argument can be countered with the fact that the developers choose to use gender-neutral pronouns because of the amount of characters the players will ultimately recruit. And last, I may also add that a lot of my enjoyment of this game comes because I love Watch Dogs, therefore I'm going to enjoy it regardless of the negative points that I mentioned in the beginning, just as I don't stop playing games that are extremely flawed, because the power of liking something is quite strong, but the fact that I like it doesn't exclude it from receiving criticism, I should state. player interaction, and narrative. I think and argue that Watch Dogs has a lot to say, especially when it comes to the topics it covers, and the setting is a perfectly plausible future that's not very far away from us. What I enjoyed about the overall narrative is that it's a perfect balance of tone between funny and serious, and it proves how disturbing this future might be, especially when we are already starting to deal with some similar issues like police brutality, which is itself a systematic problem, invasion of privacy, bad people taking advantage of technology and power, cryptocurrency issues, drones, invasive AI, electric cars and its disadvantages, inhuman practices to achieve faster results in medical fields, and the big discussion that is morality and technology and if they go hand in hand, and the discussion about violence and if it is necessary to fight against an oppressive group. That's why I enjoy these games a lot. The setting is a very strong asset. The game presents the player with arguments occasionally and very few decisions, but including the ability to choose is good, even if it isn't a fully written character. They have somewhat of a personality, supported a bit of course by their occupation, perks and skill. The rest I decided, or we decided, with clothes and the things they do. My character has a justification to do the things that they do thanks to the art of interaction, and also taking advantage of role-playing. But I do believe that Watchdogs Legion, and this is merely speculation, that Watchdogs Legion was designed with this in mind. I speculate that they already knew that the interactions perhaps may be dry, but I think they knew that and they went with it because they knew the players will make special connections and they knew the players will engage in roleplay despite how minor it may be. As a player, you develop a relationship with your characters. It's your story, it's yours to mess and yours to complete, and that's cool. I play on Iron Man mode like I said in the beginning of this video, something I enjoyed a lot, and when a character of mine got killed, I knew it was because I messed up. I took the decision to not carry a weapon with live rounds and to defend myself. I stuck with the idea of being a mostly young female-led organization who avoids lethal violence, comprised of hackers and stealth agents instead of soldiers. Therefore, when I choose to engage in lethal combat, I knew it was a mistake. The odds were against me both in physical fights and in long-range fights, and I didn't have enough time to hack my way out of there, so I paid for my mistake, or my character paid for their mistake.
No, this is not how it's supposed to happen! Bagley! Oh, fuck!
It never gets easier to see that.
Sadly, that operative has gone on to the big safe house in the sky.
I like this experience overall, not only because I'm a fan of the franchise, but also because I can appreciate how the game takes advantage of the assets it has, mostly player interaction and narrative. I love role-playing games, so that definitely enhanced the experience with Legion, and I subconsciously do this with my fellow characters as well, or other quote-unquote non-important characters in games. I develop some sort of attachment to a character that perhaps isn't meant to be fully fleshed out.
Fuck yes! Now here comes a bloke who knows how to have a tear up. Front him for his hooligan mates.
I gotta admit, this used to be a very negative script that focused mainly on the problems this game has, and while I believe criticism is extremely important, most of it has already been mentioned, and my words will simply not match the arguments that are already part of the conversation. Recently, I woke up extremely hungover and I found myself watching a 200k subs video from a YouTuber I follow, and there they mentioned the importance of focusing primarily on the positives when it comes to game analysis, and because it is simply easier to display dislike or even hatred towards a project, something I find myself guilty of as well, at least the first one, pointing out flaws. And I struggle quite a bit at that moment because in one hand I think there's truth in some words, on the other I shouldn't restrain myself from being open about my thoughts on a game, especially when I have a genuine argument to back it up, like I did in my video about Coffee Talk, which I kinda went against the tide because everyone seemed to be liking that game. It will be a different case if I were to talk about other games like Dark Souls and The Witcher, which I have reasons to dislike them, but they wouldn't add anything interesting, so therefore I wouldn't share my reasons. So the thought occurred, and despite almost throwing up, I couldn't help myself, so I got out of my bed and turned on my computer to rewrite the script. So that is all I have to say when it comes to player interaction and Watchdogs Legion. I did point out some flaws, but I also want to commend the game for taking advantage of this concept, and I do believe not a lot of people appreciate it, not a lot of people recognize it, and it perhaps may be overlooked. But that is all I have to say. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you have a nice day.